Sarah, welcome back to my channel. I am currently editing draft 5 of my debut fantasy romance novel. I just wanted to give a little intro to this video. Basically, there was a point a few weeks ago, a month ago, where I was kind of having a breakdown about my book. I was really struggling to work on it. After I had gotten to a place where I thought my opening chapters were amazing, I was ready to get beta reader kind of feedback. Then I did this whole project basically where I was reading all these craft books and different stuff and just decided that I didn't have enough of a grasp on the whole arc and plot of my book. I didn't want to send anything off to beta readers, alpha readers, people like that if I was going to change something soon, and I decided that's what I was gonna do. So in this video I am replotting my entire fantasy book using Scrivener. It's not really a tutorial video, although I do show ways that I'm using it and some of the features, but it's really just me figuring it out for the first time and replotting my book. So I just want to put that in there. If you are really struggling with organization, which is what I was having a problem with, I had notes on all these little paper things everywhere. So many author friends use Scrivener and basically told me if you use this it'll absolutely change your life for writing. I really didn't believe them. I've had the app downloaded to my computer for over a year, and I have just now, a year later, finally made the switch to Scrivener full time. It was really helpful organizing all of my research because I have a lot of a historical fantasy element to this. It was really getting so complicated to compare things, so this was really helpful. So if that's you, I just wanted to throw that in here because it was really helpful for me to switch over to Scrivener. Not an ad or sponsored or anything. I just kind of geek out over Scrivener in this whole video. If you're an organizational mess like I was, this is the app, the place to store all of that, and it was really helpful. So I hope you enjoy this vlog and watch me have a complete breakthrough in my writing and get one step closer to publishing. I'm kind of having a little bit of a breakdown about my book. I think the last real writing update I shared was that I had finished my first chapter and was getting ready to send it off for critique, and shortly after I really polished the whole chapter. I have been looking into a lot of writing books and writing advice because I'm doing this whole series on here for writing advice from authors that I love, and I've been reading a lot of craft books and different things, and I have felt this way for a little while where I needed to cement my plot a little bit stronger. I did plot my book a while ago, and I have this whole draft, but it just kind of feels there's a lot of areas that are more vibes and not plot. And the more that I edited it, I really love the vibes of the first chapter. I love a lot of what's going on. The main character didn't talk to anyone in the first couple pages. She's walking somewhere by herself, and I just felt that was way too much inside her head, and that wouldn't be a very good way to show who she is. You don't see who she is in comparison to other people. Basically, in my timeline, I was kind of starting it a little too late again. I guess I've realized I really am an underwriter. I have a lot of the pieces in my head of where we're going with stuff, and I just don't always write everything out. I don't really know why. I guess people say you're either an over or an underwriter. Either you're spending most of your time cutting tons of stuff, or you're spending most of your time having to add. So repeatedly, I am having to start earlier than I was before. My story was starting at 2 or 3 in the morning. Instead, I think I'm going to start it at 5 or 6 p.m. the night before. She's given a gift in the first chapter. We talk about this gift that she gets for her birthday, and I just thought maybe we could just move past it and she can just talk about getting this gift and how it's affected her. But now I'm realizing she needs to get the gift on page. So now I want to start it a couple hours earlier and still include a lot of what happened in my original first chapter. So it's still the first chapter, but I want to go back a little bit. I've been working on that, and it's opening up a lot of bigger timeline questions, how many times can I keep doing this where I have to go back a little bit and add more to this draft, which so anyways, long story story short, I'm rambling. I'm kind of sitting here panicking. I wasn't going to film today. I just sat down to write. I was like, I need to plot a little bit more and make sure all this makes sense. So then I reopened Scrivener. I got it like maybe a year ago, and they give you like a free trial. And I guess I used it for like 2 weeks, and then I was like, I don't have time for this. This is not something I need. This is something I need, I think. So I just thought I would film myself using it for the first time and replotting my book, because I've never done this before and it's kind of interesting to me. So I thought it might be interesting to you guys if you haven't used Scrivener. This is the biggest learning curve ever. I'm so excited to start any next book, because I hate the way I wrote this book. Like, not the book is great, but the organizational skills and stuff I tried for this book were just not good. I had no system. So I'm hoping Scrivener will give me a system. It just feels like everything is all over the place, and I know the problem is I had the original story and it was really like an Aladdin retelling. It's kind of like really drifted away from that. The moment I shifted it from a full like Aladdin retelling to my story has fae and witches, and when I added that element in like a year ago, it just like, I feel like I got lost with the plot, and I have no longer, like, I've never really organized it. So I have my like blurb now, and I'm thinking that I can just really try to outline with that a little bit better, because I have all this stuff written. It's very interesting to me, but I just feel like I don't want to have pacing problems. I feel like that's very avoidable if I go through and I re-outline this and make sure that I'm hitting like the plot points correctly. I won't have pacing problems, but I feel like the way that my draft is written right now, if I were to publish it this way, there would be major pacing issues where it's going to feel in some areas like we're taking a while to get there, or it's going to feel very short at certain points, and I don't want that. So I'm going to replot my book that I have already written tons of. It's basically a full manuscript. We're gonna replot it and work from there. I know the vibes of this story so well. I have like extensive mood boards and music, and the character, like all of their like flaws and like all this different stuff, it's all like there. I feel deep in this world and like know it. I know like the locations and I can draw it on a map, but the plot of where the story is going, I need to know that as intimately as I know the world and the characters. Anyways, let's get working. So this is what it looks like when you first open up a new project in Scrivener. It kind of has a bunch of templates and things. I set it up in the fiction novel format. So the first thing I'm going to do is add my blurb to the beginning of the novel so that I can kind of outline with the blurb in mind. So the first thing I did in the setup here is basically I knew I wanted it to be 2 parts and have like just a general chapter and scenes. And then I started going through the templates, and they had places and characters. So I started dragging over the templates, and I started with my main female character for the template. And I basically just started going through and answering all the different questions. They have so much good information here and things for you to think about with their character motivation, with their personality and different stuff. You can add a photo. So this is one of my side characters, Brina. You can put like all their background information and occupation, all sorts of stuff. So I did that, but something I did for all of my characters, which I found really helpful when filling out this form, is I went into the Myers-Briggs website. I think it's 16personalities.com, and basically I assigned each character a Myers-Briggs personality. So they break it down into introverted versus extroverted, and then just kind of how you make decisions. So I started with that and built my characters' personalities around that. So my main character is an INFJ, and this personality has a lot of specifics. So they actually give you examples of like weaknesses and strengths and what occupations and things would be good for that personality, some of their like moral compass, a lot of just different personality traits
and kind of like internal thought processes that people with that type of personality type generally have and what makes them tick. So I did that for all of my characters, and so having it in this place where it's all in one central location, I'm able to go through and basically say like, this is how they feel about X, Y, and Z, so that I don't really like mess up their personality. I really want to make sure that my characters feel real, they feel flawed, and that when they're making decisions, it seems like a decision they would make, and I don't want to make decisions for like the fun of it that wouldn't really suit their personality. So that's something I am really focusing on, and so using these like character sketches that they have inside the Scrivener settings was really helpful for this. So I could just kind of go through and pick out those different personality things and habits and all sorts of stuff. So that was really helpful. It really helped cement a lot of my characters doing it this way and making sure that everybody's like personality is like super set in stone.
So it's a couple days later and I'm no longer having a breakdown over my book, the whole like plotting process. I've worked a lot off camera, but I am fully immersed in the world of Scrivener now, and I think I will definitely be buying it. I'm still using the free trial. I have 11 more days on it, which is kind of crazy. I think you get a full month on the free trial, and it just counts like per day that you open it. So I downloaded this over a year ago, I think, and it's only counted for when I use it, which is just wild. It has been so helpful. I have plotted out so much. I was really stuck on a few things, and I'm a very visual learner, and like the way that I do everything is visual, but having like the scene cards that they have to be able to break down each chapter by scenes, and then I can go into it. I'm gonna screen record so we can kind of talk about this at the same time. So I have my scene 1 scene card, and then I can open it, and it's literally just that scene that I'm writing. This is really helping with my feeling of being overwhelmed, but I'm just slowly moving everything from Vellum, where I had written all of my drafts up until now, into Scrivener and plotting out each chapter and adding in the chapter summaries, and then going into each chapter and doing scene by scene. So it looks like I have like 2 to 3 scenes per chapter. I'm still not done doing this. Right now I have up to chapter 10, but I've mostly just plotted my female main character side out because hers was the side I was having the problem with. This has helped so much. I'm absolutely in love with where everything is going with my story. I'm so in love with what's happening. I have thought of so many new things, just the act of like plotting out each point and like brainstorming with it, and then the fact that I can add pictures, and I just was holding too much stuff in my brain is what I think. For this story, I was trying to store all the different facts. So every idea I've like kind of suddenly had, I'm using their notes tab and just writing down different ideas that pop into my head. Some of them are even just ideas for book 2 because it's going to be a duology, but I'm just getting so many ideas and it's great. It feels wonderful. I feel like I was stuck and I was getting very nervous because I would like to still publish this year. My cover will be done soon, and I want to do a cover reveal. I want to pick a release date and set up pre-orders. I didn't have an idea of when this would be done because I really was getting stuck. I'm going to continue plotting today, everything out and moving everything over. Then I really need to sit down and just write some of these new scenes that I've added. I want to finish this draft and have it completely done from chapter 1 to chapter 30 or 40 and be able to just read it through. I want the whole thing plotted out. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna make sure we understand where we're going. Anyways, I feel like this was kind of rambly. Scrivener's going well. The replotting is going great. I'm loving it. I've worked on some of the scenes already. So I'm gonna go through the first 10 chapters again and fill in anything that's missing in the scenes. Then I'm gonna get back to editing a YouTube video for you guys. Let's get to work. just wanted to give you a little bit of a tour on what I did so far in Scrivener. I don't want to like show too much about my book yet since it's not published, but I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview. So I did a few more things. I don't know if they're like the correct way that you should do them necessarily. I'm not like a Scrivener expert or anything, but this is what I've started doing. So I have my main book and I have my blurb here, and then I have part 1, part 2. And when you click on part 1, I have like all of these chapter breakdowns. That's what I'm like in the process of finishing right now. So I'm on like chapter 6, and I've only plotted out the scenes up to chapter 14 right now. And when I go into the chapter, I have like a scene 1 card, a scene 2 card, and then I can open up each scene and be directly in like the dialogue and the whole like actual book part that I've written. So that's pretty cool. And the newest thing I've done is I've now added little folders for all the other books in this series and made a like collection tab with all the book series in it. So this is going to be called the Keys of Sophos series, and we are going to have at least 4 books. So I've got the 4 books like listed right here, and there are 4 books. They take place at the same time but in different people's perspectives, like for different couples. If you've ever read the Bridge Kingdom series, it's kind of similar to that kind of concept where it's kind of like separate duologies, but if you want to see like what happens with those individual couples and like the behind the scenes, you would go to like each book. So this is the first concept with my 2 main characters. They each have their own chapter. They're from separate like kingdoms and like worlds, and so in the second duology we'll follow the male like main character's sister, who we meet in the beginning of the story. So it's been so helpful using this because I can actually pull open her book and there's already like scenes where they're together. I at one point wrote this scene through my male main character's perspective, but then realized it really wasn't integral to the story, so I cut it and I just have him like finding out about it later, but it has to do with his sister, so she gets that scene specifically. Now it's going to be in her book through her perspective. So the cool part to me about this is because I can have all of the books open, what I was doing before was I was writing in this little notes section here, and I was saying like this corresponds to like so-and-so's chapter X. And now that I have all 4 of the books set up, I can basically like have them linked already and just take the scenes and kind of even just write them early in the other person's perspective so that I know if there was something I wanted to point out in something, like whether or not it should be there. Because like right now there's one scene and I just haven't decided something about whether or not another character will be there in the scene for the male main character's perspective, and if I decide he isn't there in that scene, then he should be in this scene with the sister. It's like I need to decide those things because I can't write it like she was with him if he's in this scene. A couple small decisions like that I want to decide ahead of time and kind of plot out. Originally I had wanted to do 3 duologies and follow the main guy, who's my like male lead, his sister, and his best friend. Have his best friend link up with someone in the other world and have like 3 couples there. I just don't know if I want to do that or not. So I know I want to do these 2 couples for sure, but it makes me think that if I want to do his story potentially, or leave like a door open to potentially do his story if like people like this story and are interested, then I need to kind of flesh out a few things a bit more about him and maybe what he was doing in this time in the beginning when they all kind of cross over. And I think I need to write him more into the story just in general. It was already kind of the plan, but I'm gonna have to make those decisions. But having this ability to do this outline, so let's climb out of here. So here's my first book. We have all of this, and then the coolest part is the places. So if I click on places, I have all of these different pictures. Some of these I haven't updated yet, but characters I have updated. So these are a lot of, except for this one, I have to change it because I keep duplicating like copying and pasting. But we have like our main character, our main male character. This is Lila, who will get her own book. And then these are some of the other main characters. I have to add a few more.
but it's just really cool to see everything so visually. And then the other thing I've started doing is adding research. So I literally have like folders for different research. So this one is punishment in ancient Egypt because that comes up, and then I have all this like information that I found on it and like what I'm gonna use from it. So I have so much more research. I just need to like organize it in here, and now I have a spot for it, which is freaking awesome. A little update on my outlining process with Scrivener. This is exactly what I needed to get organized and make sure like everything I need is in the same place. It is so helpful for my jumbled mind. I think I started showing some of this a little bit yesterday. I know I filmed a little bit this morning. I now have a lot of the chapters listed out, and they're broken into like which part of the book. So I have a part 1 and part 2. Scene by scene outlined everything up until chapter 18, I think, out of 30 right now. I'm standing like at my island. I have my computer right here, and I'm just gonna set a really quick timer, and I'm just going to go through these chapters and do the chapter outlines and put that in the part 1 section. The very beginning of the book all the way up until chapter 18, completely done. I have scenes written for all of it, or I have the new scenes. Like I added some new stuff after I was reworking some of this outline, and I kind of had like a breakthrough about a few things that weren't working timeline wise. I have all of that completely done. So I'm going to go through and make sure that the summaries are all written, that I pull over any pieces of writing through all my drafts, through all the versions, because some of these like things I took out for this latest draft and I thought, oh, that doesn't work. But now that I like look at it with this better outline and timeline, it does work. So I need to go through the different versions of the drafts and pull in everything. Anyways, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to set a timer and do a little time lapse to motivate me to get this done. Another really cool thing though about using Scrivener right now is, I think I showed this yesterday, but being able to plot out all of the books for this series at once, and like knowing, because the timelines overlap in this stuff, so knowing like this scene, now I need to write it in this person's perspective, or I need to write like a different part of it for this person. So fun. It's been great. It's been great.